My new roommate unzipped her dress. "That's why no one wants me." I said, "I do." The first time I saw my new roommate cry, it wasn't because she had lost her job, missed her family, or argued with anyone. It happened on a bright Tuesday afternoon when sunlight poured through the apartment windows, making everything look warm except the sadness in her eyes. She slowly reached behind her back, unzipped the top of her dress just enough to reveal the deep scars covering her shoulder and upper back, then whispered with heartbreaking defeat that this was why no one wanted her. In that moment, I realized some people carry wounds that never truly disappear, and sometimes the greatest act of kindness is simply refusing to look away. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and seeing the beauty inside people instead of judging appearances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the Kindness Project. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. My name is Rowan Mercer, and until that spring, I believed I understood loneliness. After my father's passing, I had moved across the country to start over in a quiet city where nobody knew my past. I rented a modest 2-bedroom apartment because living alone reminded me too much of the silence that waited after every workday. When the landlord announced another tenant would share the apartment to reduce costs, I wasn't excited, but I wasn't against the idea either. I simply hoped whoever arrived would be respectful and quiet. I had no idea that a stranger named Maris Holloway would completely change the way I looked at courage, kindness, and love. Maris arrived on a beautiful morning carrying only 3 suitcases and a tired smile. She apologized for taking up space before she had even walked through the front door. That single sentence revealed more about her than hours of conversation ever could. She moved carefully, almost as if she expected every object she touched to reject her. During the first few days, she stayed mostly inside her room, leaving early for work and returning before sunset. She always wore clothes with high collars or long sleeves, even when the weather became warmer. She laughed politely whenever I made conversation, but the laughter never reached her eyes. Behind every smile was someone waiting for disappointment. Weeks passed before we truly became friends. It started with simple things. I made coffee every morning and eventually learned exactly how she liked hers. She discovered I always forgot to eat lunch and quietly began leaving homemade sandwiches in the refrigerator with small handwritten notes wishing me a good afternoon. We never discussed painful memories, yet somehow we both understood they existed. Our friendship grew not because of dramatic conversations but because of ordinary kindness repeated every single day. One Saturday afternoon, the apartment building hosted a community picnic in the courtyard. Families laughed beneath colorful umbrellas while children chased bubbles across the grass. I invited Maris to join me, hoping fresh air might brighten her mood. At first she refused, saying she wasn't feeling well. After gentle encouragement, she finally agreed. She wore a light blue dress that looked beautiful in the sunlight, but I noticed how nervous she seemed every time someone looked in her direction. Throughout the afternoon she kept adjusting the back of her dress, making sure nothing could be seen. Everything changed when a careless comment floated across the picnic tables. Someone laughed about scars, saying damaged things were impossible to love. They had no idea Maris overheard every word. Her smile disappeared instantly. She quietly excused herself and hurried back upstairs before anyone noticed the tears beginning to fill her eyes. I followed several minutes later, worried by the silence she left behind. When I entered the apartment, I found her standing beside the bedroom window as daylight streamed across the floor. Without turning around, she slowly unzipped the back of her dress just enough to reveal thick burn scars stretching across her shoulder and upper back. They were old, pale reminders of a fire she had survived years earlier while rescuing her younger sister from their burning family home. Her sister had lived. Maris had survived. But from that day forward, people saw the scars before they saw her heart. Relationships ended after moments of surprise. Strangers stared. Some people even asked cruel questions that left invisible wounds deeper than the physical ones. She quietly admitted that every person she had ever tried to love eventually walked away. She believed kindness always had limits, and beauty always mattered more than character. She had convinced herself she would spend the rest of her life hiding beneath layers of fabric because rejection hurt less when nobody got close enough to see the truth. I looked at the scars for only a moment before looking directly into her eyes instead. Those marks told the story of extraordinary bravery, not something shameful. They proved she had risked her own life to save someone else. I gently told her that I did want her in my life, not because I ignored the scars, but because I saw the strength behind them. For the first time since we met, she cried openly without trying to hide her tears. That afternoon became the beginning of healing neither of us expected. Maris gradually stopped hiding inside oversized clothes. She joined neighbors for coffee. She smiled without forcing it. She even began volunteering at a children's burn recovery center, where young patients immediately connected with someone who truly understood their fears. Watching her encourage frightened children was like watching sunlight finally break through years of heavy clouds. She showed them that surviving wasn't something to be ashamed of. It was something to celebrate. Her confidence inspired others throughout our community. Several people who had hidden their own scars, whether physical or emotional, began sharing their stories. Our apartment building slowly transformed into a place where people looked beyond appearances. It reminded me that kindness spreads quietly, one honest conversation at a time. Months later, we returned to another community picnic. This time Maris wore a summer dress that didn't completely cover the scars on her shoulder. Nobody laughed. Nobody stared for long. Instead, neighbors welcomed her with genuine smiles because they now knew the incredible woman behind those scars. As she laughed with children running across the grass, I realized the strongest people are often those who have every reason to hide but choose to live openly anyway. If this story has touched your heart, please like, comment, share this video, and subscribe to the Kindness Project. Your support helps spread compassion to people who may desperately need a reminder that they are worthy of love exactly as they are. Special request, please comment with the words, "Scars don't define the heart." As the sun began to set that evening, golden light painted the sky while laughter echoed through the park. Maris stood beside me with peaceful confidence, no longer hiding from the world. Her scars hadn't disappeared. The past hadn't changed. What changed was the belief that she had to earn love by looking perfect. Sometimes the greatest miracle isn't finding someone without scars. It's finding someone who sees every scar, every broken piece, every painful chapter, and still chooses to stay. Because real kindness doesn't look for perfection. It recognizes courage, embraces humanity, and reminds us that the most beautiful hearts are often the ones that have been broken, healed, and learned to love again.